Okay, time to put the rifle back on the scope. We got the Wheeler gunsmithing kit here, has all the parts that we need in there. It's got the torque wrench, bits, lapping bars. We'll use the 30mm for this particular scope that we're going to put on. What else got? It got some Loctite in there and some compound if you need it. I also have the original boxes for the base and the rings that I kept over the years. It's a good thing that I kept it because it has the specs, the pounds, inch pounds of torque that we need for each part for this. So I'm going to move the camera over and kind of shine down so you don't need to see me, but maybe you can take a look and see how I'm going to put this back on. Here's a look at the kit, everything that comes inside of it. You got 30mm, 1-inch torque wrench, compound right here. I already took the bits out that I need. The handle that goes on here if you have to run it back and forth, Loctite, and the levels, and then the extension there, instructions. And one thing I want to show you is when they make these rings, they machine this all in one piece. So the top half should match the bottom half. And if you can see, I actually scratched a 2 for the rear and a 1 for the front. That way you never mix them up because they're supposed to, it's one piece of aluminum that were made that way, so it's got to stay the same. All right, the first thing with the torque wrench, you always have to store it at the lowest setting to keep the tension off it. So you would pull this down, and as you pull down, you can turn it. And if you go counterclockwise, the little dial goes all the way down, and then this free spins in both directions. When you want to start tightening it, you got to pull down and keep turning it until this goes all the way up to what you need. All right, so that's how you're going to adjust this. And once you start coming up, then it won't turn anymore. So that's when you start getting your clicks, like that. First thing we're going to do is tighten up this base. See how that's moving? I got 4 screws, 2 here and 2 here, that I'm going to take out, drop some Loctite down in there, and tighten this back up. Okay, this base that I bought for this gun, the specifications up here says 20 inch-pounds of torque. So I have this set at 20, and I'm going to loosen these up, take them out, and I'm putting Loctite in this thing because I don't want this to come loose again. I'd rather have trouble taking it off than it coming off when I don't want it to. And it's getting tight. 1, 2, 3. And that one's done. They say 3 clicks on the instructions. Okay, the base is on. Now the rings. It says here instructions, which I kept, 45 to 50 pounds. So let's adjust this all the way up to 45 to 50. Okay, so the base is on, the rings are connected to the base, and I put that Loctite on this base. I didn't like this second screw. The first one and these two, the clicks were really nice, but this third one, the bit was actually slipping inside this screw here, which I don't like. It didn't click nice, that third one, but working. Okay, now we're going to take these off, the top parts off. and keep the same screws in the same spots. Try not to mix them up, and have them face in the same direction. If you can see on here, the V for Vortex is facing forward. So you don't want one backwards and one forward. They're facing the same direction. And that's how I take it off. And I set it down with the screws still in it, facing the same direction. Okay, everything's facing the same way. Now let's put our bars on here. Let's see if these two rings are lined up the right way. Okay, let's put our 30s on here. What do you think? Use the white of my shirt, if you can see. Looks pretty good. And this would be the lapping bar right here. Try to come down even on both sides. Don't make one side tighter and then have a gap here. Have it the same. And you can see how this is on here, the lapping bar, and it just slides through here so that the inside of the rings are perfectly round and smooth and all match up. Now you can put some of this compound on here if you want to put some of this on side here if it was really bad. But these are pretty expensive rings and they're pretty accurate. But if it wasn't, you could rub this on here and slide this back and forth, and you would actually be grinding off some of the metal inside your rings. But you can see it's pretty nice. I don't think I have a problem here. Still looks pretty good. Okay, so here's the level. So before we put this scope on here, we have to make sure that there's no cant on this barrel. It's got to be flat, and there's no real place to put a scope because the level could not be level. Now in some places they slide it right here on the breech, but all I have is this one little thin piece of metal here. There's nothing on that back side to make me think that this thing is flat. So I found back here on the actual bolt, the bolt that slides back and forth, there's a nice flat area on the bolt. So I'm just going to push the bolt as close as I can here. Let me zoom up here.
No, that's the camera. That's the camera.
And I'll show you. So I put it on the bolt right here because it sits right across here. Okay, so it's level here. The gun's not twisted left or right. It's nice and flat. So we're going to take our scope and now we've got our second level, and we could actually put our second level on the top of here and get that level with the gun, with the rifle. All right, so we have the rifle level, the rifle's level left to right, and then the scope matches the rifle. Then we can put our rings on. But you just got to make sure that as we're tightening that doesn't twist compared to the rifle. And I got to check my eye relief on this. And now for the ring, the top of the rings to mount down. Let's see, they're recommending 15 to 18 inch-pounds, so we have to adjust this back down. Okay, so that looks good enough. And just like changing a car tire, just go back and forth. And watch your level. So the hardest part is as you're tightening, everything's moving. So I have to keep checking the rifle and the scope are staying matched up, which is kind of a pain in the butt because I don't have the gun inside of a vise. So I'm going to put a little Loctite in here before I tighten these down. I kind of got it snug, but now that it's snug and it shouldn't move, I'm going to just put a dab in here. So I have an old Tasco bore sighting kit with all the different rods for each caliper, and we're going to stick our 30 in here, and this is what you connect it onto. It's like a little scope, and we'll try to see if the crosshairs line up. Okay, so this is the scope, and inside there is a crosshair, and this crosshair should match that crosshair. But look at the problem we got here. With this ball system on here, I'm not going to be able to get it on. All right, let's try to get it on now. So it looks like it's a little bit left and high. I don't know if I can show you that. I'll try to hold the camera up to it. Well, it's too hard to show you. Hold the camera up here. You're not gonna be able to see it, but I can see the whole grid. It's like a big square grid, and the main crosshairs are left and high of the grid. So let's play with some of these and bring it back to the right. So that's perfect. My left and right is perfect, up and down, scope matching the end of that barrel. And I'm about 1.5 high. So that's perfect right there. So with the bore sighter grid crosshair is matching the crosshair. This crosshair of the scope is lining up with the crosshair of the bore sighter right now. So I can loosen these caps and make the zero go back to where it was. Now I took this turret off. This is the standard turret, and I've got a custom turret on there specifically for the round that I shoot. That's the correct amount of MOAs, and I'm going to put this where it says 0. It's a 200-yard 0, and that's going to be over here on the notch. And I'm going to loosen the elevation. I'm going to loosen the elevation and move it back to 0. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Well, the 0 is up here on top, and you can see that's 8 clicks for me to bring that, bring the reticle back down to the bore site to match the grid up there. So I have to loosen this and bring this back down. Now, when I'm out on the range, when I take a couple shots, I may have to adjust, so I'll have to loosen the 3 set screws. Let's say I had to do that. I could loosen it, move the turret, put it back to the 0 once I get out there. But right now that scope is zeroed with the grid in the bore sighter. So we got our base on with Loctite, the rings mounted to the base, and then the top of the rings to each other. I gotta wipe it all down now. That Loctite is seeping out a little bit. But the next step is take it to the range and sight it in, get it zeroed.